Welcome to the Super Sentai Brothers. This is episode 12 of Licensed to Carranger, the internet's best and only podcast dedicated to Gekisou Sentai Carranger. Every week we watch an episode of the show and we share our thoughts with you, the listeners. My name is Matt J. With me as always is my co-host and brother Dave. Dave, how you doing today, bud?
Not bad. It's sunny and cool on this St. Patrick's Day afternoon.
Happy St. Patrick's Day to you,
Happy
Dave.
St. Patrick's Day.
Are you doing anything to mark the occasion?
I am not. Which is, listen, if you want to go celebrate the Holy Feast of St. Patrick, that's cool. I went to the St. Patrick's Day parade 1 year, and that was enough for me.
Oh, yeah. But, I mean, parades, I think, are bad in general, but the St. Patrick's Day parade in Cleveland is... I understand the idea behind being charmed by it, but it's almost never good weather in Cleveland on St. Patrick's Day.
Too early. Like, every couple of years, you'll get, an odd, beautiful day, but generally it's not a great day.
Yeah. A coworker of mine was asking me, hey, Matt, are you doing anything for St. Patrick's Day this weekend? And I said, no, I'm 34. I don't want to go out to a bar on a day that is full of terrible people when I could just wait 2 days and go when it's quiet. Mm-hmm. But I did actually just come from a smaller house party where the hosts had been smoking a brisket and a corned beef since 11 p.m. last night.
No, see, that's great.
Yeah, it was
Small
amazing.
house party, smoked brisket. Yeah, that's ideal.
I had enough time because they pulled it out of the smoker and let it rest for a while, and then they sliced it up, and I got a piece right as I had to walk out the door to come here and do this. And people were like, oh man, the brisket just got cut. Why are you leaving? I was like, oh, I'm sorry. I can't help eat the rest of this 20 pounds of smoked meat. I need to go talk about Super Sentai.
Well, I and the rest of us, the rest of the listeners, we appreciate your sacrifice, Matt.
I'm looking forward to it, though.
Nice of you.
And I'm especially looking forward to it, Dave, because today we are watching episode 12 of Gekisou Sentai Carranger called The Signalman Who Came From Space. Dave, it was written by our old friend Yoshio Urasawa. He is back.
He's back!
Original air date was May 17th, 1996. Of course, if you're going to watch along with us, you can either do that with the DVDs or on shoutfactory.tv. But Dave, before we get to that, as always, shining in the heavens, there are 5 stars. What is our first star of the week?
So our first star of the week, Matt, it's a baby watch.
We interrupt your regular broadcast of the Super Sentai Brothers to bring you a breaking news update.
Baby watch. Anyways, I'm really excited. This is very cool. The babies are at that... I mean, they are always sort of growing by leaps and bounds, I think, is
sure, that's how babies do.
Right, in that first year. But the big thing they have started doing recently, and this made my English teacher heart very happy, was compound sentences.
Ooh.
They've been getting compound sentences down. So, the other day, Sugar Bean, she looked outside. She was like, dark outside, night. Animals go sleep. And we're like, well... Lots of animals go to sleep. Owls wake up. She said, nighttime, animals go sleep, but owls wake up. So she got that coordinating conjunction in there.
Nice.
And then the other day, she was going to take her bath, and she said, bubbles in bath? And I said, no. And she said, no bubbles in bath. Why? Because Sugar Bean eat it, which she does. If you put bubbles in her bath, she will try to eat them. But, she got through, why no bubbles? Why? Because I eat them if you give them to me. So,
now, how long, Dave, before you're going to start forcing them to diagram those sentences?
Listen. People need to back up off of diagramming. Diagramming is an enormously useful tool.
Dave, you were being a little too defensive here. I like diagramming sentences. I'm genuinely curious.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, probably not too terribly long. Because it's a graphic thing. If you are a person that has like wants to understand things visually, diagramming sentences is your friend. People talk about it like it's this big, terrible thing. It's not. It's a graphic organizer, which is like people are constantly talking in educational circles about how you need to use more graphic organizers, like help kids turn things into like visual representations. But then as soon as you mention diagramming sentences, people are like, oh no, that's old. We don't do that anymore.
Yeah, diagramming sentences. It's like bullet journaling for grammar.
Right, it's the best. I diagram, like if I see a sentence, there's something wrong with it, you know how I figure out what's wrong? I diagram it. And then like once I've diagrammed it, I'm like, oh, that's what's missing, or like that's what's wrong, or like this is why that's incorrect. Learn how to diagram sentences, everybody. You'll thank yourself later.
Right on. Okay, then Dave, what is our second star of the week?
So this is entirely less serious. So this is a thought I've had before, but I had it again. And I remembered to talk about it this time. So I was at Costco, right?
Okay.
As I often am.
I know this of you.
Yeah. And, you know, Costco, if you don't know this, Costco does sell a bunch of, like, food, but they also sell everything else. They sell, like, above-ground pools and, like, playgrounds, and you can get a car through there, like, whatever. But the point is that there's packaging, and there's, like, models on the packaging, right? Like, There's a picture of a pool, here's two models, they're in the pool, buy the pool, have a great time, right?
Sure.
And I was thinking about this before when I was at a gas station, and there was, like, a little advertisement for, like, I don't know, the gas miles card or something. There's a model on that, too. But here's the thing. They're not super attractive people. They're like moderately attractive people.
Okay. So they're not like your hot friend. They're like your your semi-hot friend.
Right, like listen, I'm not knocking on these people at all. Like these people are definitely of like above average objective attractiveness. That's not the point. This is not a dunk on these models. The thing that is weird to me is that there is clearly enough need for people who are like, well, we do want an attractive person, but like at some point somebody has to say like, nah, no, actually, not you. You're too attractive. Like you're blowing this out of the water. This is like a gas card ad. We do not need.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Giselle Bundchen, like Giselle Bundchen is too much. Like you're too sexy.
Right. Like the problem is not like, oh, like we couldn't get the sexiest person. Like we couldn't afford them. So what's like further down on the list that we can actually
This
hire?
is like Shell gasoline. They've got like gajillions of dollars. Like the dollar point is not the problem.
The issue is they need to like find that delicate balancing point.
Yeah, and so there's gotta be somebody who's out there. And like they're having a conversation at a cocktail party. And it's like, oh, what do you do? Oh, I'm a teacher. What do you do? I'm a model, actually. And then there's like a brief pause, and they get a look. And this poor person has gotten this look, because the look means, really? You're a model? That's what the look means? And this poor person has gotten this look so many times that like sometimes they just let it slide, right? Like they just let the person wonder. And then other times they do feel compelled to answer. They're like, well, I am a model, but like, like I'm like a niche model for like moderately attractive things.
Right. Well, I think what's interesting about this is that it highlights the fact that being if you are a model, your job is model. Your job is not hot person, right?
Right.
Because like you can be a hot person and have model be your job, But you can look like me and have a model be your job. I mean, okay, you can't look exactly like me because I don't have a twin and I'm not a model. So I don't think that like...
But you could be like, right, in that...
Right, like I'm sort of, I could be in that zone for, I could sell you a Sunoco gas card maybe.
Right, see, that's exactly it. You could be a Sunoco gas card model.
But I don't know how to model. If you put a camera in front of me, I get all weird.
That's definitely true. You do get all weird. So anyways, I was also wondering about like, are there any other fields in which being sort of middle of the road is not only okay, but is like actively desirable?
Dave,
like,
I'll tell you what, if I can find one, then I will have found my calling.
Anyways, Matt, semi-attractive models. That's what I thought about for a weirdly long time this week. What, Matt, is our third star of the week?
Dave, our third star of the week is a book that I read. I'm gonna do a little book report for you here.
Oh, nice.
Dave, I read a book called Grocery, and it's about groceries and grocery stores.
Okay.
But that
All
doesn't.
right, that's interesting. That seems like the sort of book that you would read.
I was gonna say that doesn't like just because that's the topic doesn't mean that you shouldn't read it. It's good. It's by Michael Rollman.
Oh, I love that guy.
Yeah, award-winning. I think he won a couple of James Beard Awards for writing about food.
He has won a few James Beard Awards. Also lives right here in beautiful Cleveland.
Well,
actually lives like, I don't know his address because that would be weird, but I do know that he lives like fairly close to me because I see him. Like, I see him just wandering around. Like, I see him at the farmer's market, or I see him, like, just walking down the street or whatever. And I do have to repress the urge to, like, geek out a little bit.
Uh-huh.
Because I am kind of a fan.
You're the sort of guy who would geek out about a food writer. I understand.
I am the sort of, yeah, precisely. And so it's like, there's, like, warring things. Because, like, on one hand, it's like, dude, we're in Cleveland. Like, we're chill. Like, just be cool. But then on the other hand, I don't know. He might be in that like tier of fame where it's still cool to be noticed. Maybe. You know what I mean? I just don't know. I don't know any way to find that out. But I do just want to be like, Michael Roman, I love your books. And then, like,
and just
that's
like
all
jump into a hedge.
Right. Yeah. Just. Psh.
Anyway, the thing that is interesting about this book, and you have touched on it, the thing that's interesting about it for me and potentially you, is that since Michael Rollman is a like local guy, he grew up in the Heights. I say the Heights because I don't immediately remember if it was Cleveland Heights or Shaker Heights.
Shaker, I believe.
That makes sense. Anyway.
Yeah, he's a fancy
The
boy.
book is about sort of like the sort of history of American grocery stores and how Americans interact with like food and like the availability of food, and there's a lot of sort of like Michael Pollan-esque like food talk in it.
Oh, okay.
That's maybe a third of the book. The other 2/3 of the book are like a very like detailed case study where he's like, okay, we're going to talk about grocery stores, but we're going to talk about this one grocery store chain. And the grocery store chain that they talk about is Heinen's, which if you were from the Northeast Ohio area, is like a big local grocery store chain, right?
Yeah.
So this whole book is kind of just a history of specifically Heinen's. And if you are a guy, like I know you are, Dave, who is from Cleveland and loves food, it's this really...
Yeah, both of those things are true.
It's this really interesting, like, local history account where it's like, oh, yeah, let me tell you about, like, I interviewed a guy for a couple of pages about what sort of, like, food stores used to be on Coventry. Apparently there used to be a few back like during the Depression. Anyway, this is all very interesting and I totally recommend this book. The thing that was particularly wild to me is near the end of the book, there's a whole chapter about produce. And as part of that, he was part of this conversation with the three guys who are the main produce buyers for Heinen's, right?
Yes.
And he was giving their names like, oh, X person said this, Y person said this, Z person said that. But when they got to the third person, I was like, wait a second. I know that name. And it's not like a friend of mine, but like I definitely know this name. And I waited for it to come around again to make sure that like I had heard it properly. And it was the name he was saying was Terry Romp. Terry Romp was my...
Wait a minute, I know that name.
That was my first boss when I was 15 at my first job at Danny Boy's Farm Market.
No kid. And his family, like, owned the place, didn't they?
Yeah, owned it for, like, he inherited that place from his dad. And apparently, I think, still owns the building and just rents it out to fatheads.
Oh, no kidding. Wait a minute. I thought that dude shut down Danny Boy's because, like, he was retiring or something.
No, here's what's crazy. He is currently 56 years old. When he was my boss, when I was 15, he was a little older than I am now. And, like, having this weird realization of, like, oh my gosh, he must have stopped running that store because he got a job as, like, the head produce buyer at Heinen's and didn't want to also, like, couldn't have his own grocery store as well. Like, all of these weird things, like, clicked into my brain from, like, 19 years ago.
Huh. That's what, yeah, I genuinely just assumed he shut. Sorry, Danny Boy's was like a long-standing, it was like a very, very large, like, independently owned produce store, but they also had like a bakery and stuff. It was actually very nice.
Yeah, it was a great store. They used to get a lot of stuff up from Amish country, but that was my first job. My job title in my first job was, and this is not a joke, Produce Boy. That's what it said on the pay stub. Anyway, it was just this wild moment when I was reading this book, a book that I highly recommend. Dave, what is our fourth star of the week?
So our fourth star of the week, Matt, is that I am on... This is not a joke, Matt. I wish I could tell you that this is a joke. We are on a new level of whacked out diet.
Okay.
Albeit temporarily. So here's the deal. Beth is part of this very interesting like pilot study at the Cleveland Clinic. It's called the Center for Functional Medicine. Very briefly, the idea is that like, hey, remember when you had like one doctor that you met with for like everything? And that person just sort of like knew you and your history and could like keep track of stuff instead of meeting with like 50 different specialists.
Right.
Remember when we did that? Well, there were some very good things about that. Let's see what we can do to sort of like recreate that structure a little bit while not like losing the expertise of these very cool specialists.
Okay, right on.
You know, so like there's this huge intake process. It's like hours and hours and hours and hours of interviews and like tons of tests. Just all of them. Just do all the tests. Really try to develop like a super comprehensive history of like Beth, right?
Gotcha.
And her like whole, like her medical universe. And the goal is eventually that like everybody will do this. Well, part of it is they're like, we want you to do, and I'm doing it with my wife because she's my wife and I love her and I'm supportive. They're like, we want you to do this elimination diet. The idea being like, hey, maybe you've never talked about this to anyone, but like you get upset stomachs 3 times a week and you just think that's how life is. But it's actually because like you eat bananas all the time and they like disagree with you, right?
Okay.
So the idea of this elimination diet is like cut your diet down to like very, very simple foods, like foods that we sort of know like virtually nobody has any adverse reactions to. Do that for a few weeks, let your body reset, and then like add pork back in. And if all of a sudden you're like, oh, I feel miserable, you're like, hey, maybe you've got some deal with pork and you shouldn't eat it anymore, right?
Okay.
But like you just didn't know that you had to deal with pork because you've always eaten pork and you've always felt sort of like slightly miserable, but you didn't know it was the pork. Does this all make sense?
Yeah, I gotcha.
So we're doing this. Let me okay, here's what I cannot eat right now.
Would it be easier to tell me what you cannot eat or what you can eat?
Here's what I can eat right now. Chicken.
Okay, good start.
Vegetables. Like nuts, but not peanuts. Coconut and derived products. Lentils, like lentils and beans.
Nice.
Yeah. Fish, but that's kind of out because I don't really like fish anyways. No shellfish, just like fish. No alcohol.
The fact
Water.
that you were struggling to remember what you were allowed to eat after outlining 6 things does not give me high hope for the rest of the things.
It's a pretty restrictive list. Now, again, this is not like forever. Now, first of all, the first thing that's kind of blowing my mind is how actually largely okay I am. At first, I was like, this is going to end, this is miserable. Like, I have twins. I'm insanely busy all the time. Like, one of the few pleasures left to me is the pleasures of the table. And now this stupid diet is taking away pork. But I actually am surprised at how not awful it is.
Well, the thing, honestly, Dave, that seems the most awful is that the twins are not on this diet.
They are not, and kind of nor should they be,
No.
really.
But, like, the fact that you are having to continue to prepare these sorts of foods and smell them but not eat them, that has to be torture.
Yeah, here's the 2 things. Okay, let me tell you the 2 things that are really killing, like really genuinely killing me. The first one is cream, like no dairy. And I say cream specifically because, like, even actually not having cheese and stuff, I've discovered I like cheese and everything, but, like, I'm surprisingly okay with it. But no, like, cream for my coffee is a real bummer. And then the second one is peanut butter.
Really?
Because you're not supposed to do peanuts.
I would not have... I mean, I know you love peanut butter. I would not have pegged those as, like, the big 2.
It's just, it's like, I think it's because of the frequency with which I consume those things. Like, I have cream in my coffee every morning, and I don't know that I eat peanut butter every single day, but more days than not, I consume at least a quantity of peanut butter. I really like it. Now, it's only for a few weeks that we're gonna start adding stuff back in, but I do know what is, like, the top of my list to, like what are we gonna try out first? These 2 things, and then we'll get everything else back in. What, Matt, is our 5th star of the week?
Dave, our 5th star of the week, it's a brief one. Yesterday, you and I helped our friends Bill and Jen move house.
Yes, they just got a new house. It's like a mile from me. It's rad.
It is rad. It's a beautiful home. But here's what else is beautiful, Dave, is that the last time that, like, that group of people all got together to help somebody move house, like, that circle of friends, was quite some time ago, right?
Yes. Yeah.
But now...
Well, Bill and Jen, this is easy. Bill and Jen have been in that house for 10 years.
Yeah. So, that's a good, like, landmark. We helped move them into that house 10 years ago. Actually, we helped move me into that house, too, because I was living in their attic at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a miserable experience.
Oh, yeah, dude. They moved in like, February.
No, it was a terrible, like, weather day to move. But it was also, like, a bunch of people in their 20s all show up in, like, their crappy cars and try to, like, pick up couches and, like, just do everything. And it was like an all-day event, and everyone was just, like, tired and wet by the end. But this time, now we're all in our 30s, so here's what happened. They hired movers to move all the big stuff. They just needed help moving, like, boxes that weren't easy to, like, have movers move, and, like, fragile things like TVs and computers and stuff.
Yeah. So
just,
here's
like,
what happened.
Yeah.
We all showed up in the morning in our... like, not, like, nobody's driving Lamborghinis or anything, but, like, everybody showed up in their, like, functional, very serviceable cars.
Right.
At
like
around 9.
SUVs and station wagons.
Right. And we loaded those cars up with, like, 1 carload per person, and then we drove over and unloaded it in, like, 40 minutes, and then we sat around and, like, drank a few Cokes, and then everybody said, like, great job, everyone.
Like, high five. See you all later.
See you later. And then we all went home. It was excellent.
It was so
definitely
good.
The best way to move.
I definitely recommend. Man, I have not had the opportunity.
Okay, Matt, listen.
I have not moved since I was in my 20s. Last time I moved, I was in my late 20s.
Here's what
But
let me
I'm
finish
so
your sentence.
looking forward to just like paying a guy.
Right. Yeah, let me finish that sentence for you, what you highly recommend. What you highly recommend, Matt, is being in your 30s. That's what you highly recommend.
I hope you all make it, folks.
Yeah, guys, listen. If you're in your 20s and listening to this, you might think like, the 30s, 9 to 5, I'll die. No, you don't even understand. As tired as I am, it's because I have twins. Being in your 30s, working 9 to 5, is pretty great.
Yeah, 9 to 5 just means you get your weekends. It's pretty good.
Yeah,
you know what else is good, Dave? It's Carranger. We're going to take a break. We're going to watch episode 12, and we will be right back. Okay, welcome to the first episode of a bold new direction for this podcast. We are now a Signalman appreciation show.
Yep. We changed over. We should have thought of a new name before we started recording this half. We didn't.
Well, we'll work it out by next week. We can't do the Signalman who loved me. Anyway, we'll get there. Signalman rules. This episode is called The Signalman Who Came From Space. It is the introduction of a new supporting cast member. And he rules a lot. Dave, let's get into it.
So, it opens up. This is a real letdown from that build-up. We open up at Pegasus Motors, where Naoki is looking on for Kyosuke.
Minoru is looking around for Kyosuke.
What's up?
It's Minoru. It doesn't matter. None of these people matter. They're not Signalman.
Minoru, yeah. They're not. Who cares? They're not Signalman. Minoru is looking around for Kyosuke, and he's like, then the reason he is looking for him is not so that he can have Kyosuke do like test driving, which is Kyosuke's actual job, is because Minoru has sold some tires to a client, and he does not want to physically carry them. It seems like they should have a delivery car. They don't, because later on, we're just going to see Kyosuke, like, hauling these tires around his shoulders to the client, I guess. But
okay, now here's, I hate to derail us so earlier in the episode, but do you remember a handful of episodes ago where they were training by dragging tires around?
Yeah.
Like, at this point, hauling tires around, like, if that montage worked, then hauling tires around should be no problem for any of these people.
Well, it's still maybe just a pain. I don't know. Minoru wears a nice suit, dude. Tires get dirty.
That is true.
That's actually what I'm going to choose to interpret this as. It's not a question of, like, can Minoru lift the tires? He just doesn't want to scuff his nice studs. So we find out where Kyosuke is. He's taking a nap. He's just, like, off in a field taking a nap.
Looks very nice.
Which, okay, here's the deal. It does. People, and you want it to be wonderful, right? You're like, oh, I'm just going to lay down in this field and I'll take a nap. Here's the problem. First of all, the sun is very bright, not ideal for nap taking, and the ground, I don't know if you know this about ground, Matt, but A, it's hard, and B, it's where bugs live.
Yeah, ground got bugs. I always, there's this sort of image of taking a nap under a tree where your head is kind of like up near where the trunk is, and your hands are behind your neck.
Good.
And you've seen this in like movies and cartoons, and you're like, I am going to do this. But that's where all the tree roots are.
Yeah, they're worse than the ground.
Now, I will say, I do have one shining example in my memory of like dipping out on somewhere to go chill in or around a tree.
Well, yeah, if you can skip gym class to go sit in the big maple tree in front of your high school.
Yeah, this is a thing that we used to do. We went to a small school where you could kind of disappear pretty easily. And sometimes instead of going...
In like a good way. This was not like a sinister high school.
No, but we would just, instead of going to gym class, when there were leaves on the big maple tree out front, you could just climb up in there and nobody could see you because there were leaves.
So here's a crazy thing. This doesn't mean anything to anybody else. I just thought to tell you, Rachel's the headmistress now?
Yeah, I do know that.
Isn't that wild? Anyways, so Kyosuke is taking a deceptively bucolic nap, I will say. And what we find, but there's like some, I don't know, industrial tanks, like very large, like building-sized industrial holding tanks, like behind him. and Zelmoda appears. And he's got his Wumper barrel vase, and he wumps them out, and he's like, listen, we're not even here to... Because he doesn't know Kyosuke's there. He's talking to the Wumpers. He says, listen, we're not here to fight. Y'all have just been in the vase for a week, and you smell gross.
Right. Like, we're just here to air out the Wumpers.
That's all that's happening. We can't do it on Barabarian. I don't know why.
Well, that does not seem like a place with nice fresh air.
Yeah, so he's like, we're going to air you guys out, then back in the vase. So Kyosuke hears them and has what I can only describe as like a D&D moment, which is he sees the bad guys and just immediately, like, he doesn't try to find out what's happening. It's like when D&D players see goblins. They're just like, oh, goblins.
Gotta kill them.
Gotta kill him. Why? Just, you gotta.
I mean,
you gotta kill him.
It is very believable in this case because he's just woken up from a nap. And you know how when you wake up from naps, like, you just start responding to things without really thinking through them?
This is a post-nap fighting.
He just wakes up, he's like, oh, Zelmoda, oh, I'm in a fight.
So he just, like, jumps up, and he henshins, and they just start fighting. You know what I never noticed before? I had noticed that Zelmoda's sword is like stacked cards. Mm-hmm. I did not notice that the handle to his sword is like the ace of spades before.
Oh, I don't think I've noticed that either.
Yeah, well, it is. So they're fighting.
Yeah.
They end up in like a warehouse or something.
The warehouse is foggy for no reason.
Right. It's, so they're fighting, and then we hear traffic signals.
A siren.
Or, not signals, sirens. And Zelmoda starts to flip out a little bit.
He's like, no, it couldn't be. Not him.
It couldn't be. Not him. And this traffic cop arrives. He looks amazing. He looks like a male version of RC from the Autobots.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. Dave, I want you to Google something for me while we're live on air here.
I'd love to.
I want you to Google Space Sheriff Gavin. That's Gavan.
I didn't even need to finish it. It filled it in for me as soon as I hit Space Sheriff. Well, Space Sheriff Gavin looks cool. Also kind of like RoboCop.
Okay, here's the thing with Space Sheriff Gavin. There are 3 main Toei Tokusatsu series. There is Super Sentai, there's Kamen Rider, and there's Metal Hero.
Yes, I don't know. I know even less about Metal Hero than I do about Kamen Rider.
Okay.
I know it's usually he's like a space cop, basically,
Yeah.
right?
So Signalman. Yeah, so like that's what it is. Like they're usually space cops. Sometimes they're also like bug themed. Big Bad Beetleborgs was a like weird adaptation of a Metal Hero series.
Oh, okay.
They're like
Kamen Rider is also bug themed.
Yes, but that is I mean, it's related in that it's the same company, but it's like specifically grasshopper themed. Kamen Rider has, I think, from what I understand, originally Kamen Rider's mask was supposed to have been like skull shaped, and then either the publisher of the manga or like the producer of the TV series was like, maybe don't do that, and so that kind of got turned into a bug thing.
Sure, why not?
I read that sometime. There's probably someone listening to this podcast right now saying, Matt, that's dumb. You're very wrong. And I might be, but I'm just going to roll with it because neither of us can correct this right now. Feel free to tweet at me later. Anyway, so Space Sheriff Gavin is the first of the Metal Heroes, and I really get the vibe that Signalman, like in this series that is kind of a like self-parodizing spoof on Super Sentai, Signalman is kind of a spoof on the Metal Hero series that got plugged into it. I don't know if that's actually true or if that was the inspiration behind this character, but it's definitely the vibe I get. But he also looks amazing. Like, that is not to say that he looks goofy and dumb. He looks radical. If you watched Power Rangers Turbo, this is the Blue Centurion. That was his name in Power Rangers.
Okay, cool. Thank you for letting me know. Yeah, so he looks like a male if RC was a dude, but also a police car.
Yeah. But he doesn't look like Prowl.
Correct. He does not look like Prowl. He specifically looks like RC, but a dude and a police car. Yes, he has lights everywhere. Like just everywhere on him is he's Signalman, right? Is the traffic signal lights.
Yes. Anyway, so he shows up, and I am very happy to see him, but Zelmoda is not happy to see him, because he is the space sheriff from Planet Police. Or is it the Police Planet? I was writing my notes kind of quickly.
It's Police Planet, I believe.
So Zelmoda recognizes him. He's like, oh, no. This is very bad. Signalman commands them to obey the traffic rules of justice, which I appreciate.
Love it.
But Zelmoda and the Wumpers are not into doing that.
Yeah, the Wumpers aren't into it. It does not matter what they're into or not, because Signalman does not care, because he destroys them.
Yes.
His weapon is like a combi weapon. It's like a stick, and then like an electric police baton swings out of it, and then also we'll see later he can turn it into a gun. Mm-hmm. And he just ruins these fools.
Yeah, they're trying to get away. They cannot do it. He is really just taking them apart. At one point, he just he shoots a bunch of them with his gun, and then he turns to the camera and says, I am strong.
He's also got a great, he's got his own theme song. The only part of which I could catch was Signalman, but it's a good song. So the Wumpers and Zelmoda flee. They have no chance. This is not happening.
Right. They just came down here to air out their boots. They did not anticipate running into a space cop.
Yeah, and so Red Racer's he's just been watching. Kyosuke has not done anything throughout this. He's just kind of been in awe of Signalman. When the Wumpers run, he's like, oh, wait a minute. I got this part. I'm good. He gets in his car. Oh, sorry. We forgot to mention Signalman has a totally sick motorcycle.
Yes.
So Red Racer's like, hey, great job, whoever you are. I got this part, though. And he hops in his racer machine and drives off to catch the Wumpers, presumably. The next shot we see is him driving, and we see Signalman coming behind him with his lights flashing, and he pulls Red Racer over.
Yeah, he's like, man, do you know how fast you were going back there? Come on, dude.
Red Racer's like, dude, I'm the Red Racer. I'm part of the Carrangers.
Right.
And Signalman's like,
I gotta go chase the Wumpers and the Bozoak.
Yeah, he's like, so Signalman says, first of all, how do you even know who the Bozoak are? Second of all, who are you? And who are the Carrangers? Third of all, even if you aren't, there's an amazing spot where Kyosuke is trying to explain who he is, and he goes through the whole Carranger pose.
Yes, the pose that they do when they transform and are about to fight,
announce themselves. And then every time Signalman refers to him, he does a little fake out mocking version of it.
It is extremely
I can't tell if he's
choice.
mocking him or if he's just you're the Red Ranger, and he doesn't.
Right, he's like, this is how you say your name, okay.
All right, I'm culturally sensitive. You do a thing when you say your name. Great.
The thing he is not able to pick up on is how to pronounce the word Earth. He, like all of the Bozoak, and I guess maybe just everyone from space, cannot figure out how to say the word Earth. And so, Kyosuke is trying to explain this, and he doesn't have time to convince Signalman that it is pronounced Earth and not Ursh. And of course, this is, I'm going off the subtitles here. There is a similarly, pronunciation. There's a similar pronunciation weirdness with the actual Japanese they're speaking. Yeah. But at some point, Kyosuke says, no, I'm from Ursh. I'm the Ursh guy. And Signalman's like, oh, right, of course, the planet that we're on. And then Kyosuke gets furious that he has somehow, been, not duped, but reduced to, saying the name of his own planet wrong because this guy refuses to listen to him. And they just start bickering about kind of everything. Because Kyosuke is trying to assert that he is important. And Signalman does not care and is super condescending.
Yeah, it's amazing. At this point, the other Rangers have shown up, and they're sort of holding Kyosuke back. And the conversation has just become that like Signalman doesn't care. He just doesn't care about them because he's like, no, I'm the police. I don't know who you guys are. He says, what you should do is just sit back and eat Cantonese noodles. Let the police take care of this. I am gobsmacked by the fact that he references Cantonese noodles.
That is also in my notes.
What in the world are they just...
not what in the world. What in the world is easy. That's Cantonese noodles. What in Planet Police is Cantonese noodles?
Right. Are they just that good?
I mean, sure.
That they've heard of them? They could be.
They cannot pronounce the word Earth. They don't know who the Carrangers are. But the news of Cantonese noodles has made it far across the universe.
Okay, listen. Think about the existence of Chinese food in America, Matt, and I think you will find that the fact that the Planet Police really like Cantonese noodles is entirely reasonable. So we go from there to Barbarian, and Zelmoda is there. They're in the BB Saloon, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, Signalman is back. He's the biggest jerk in the universe. He's such a square." And then we have this amazing montage of Signalman just giving all, like, they drive in space. This, by the way, we have put together. Their cars are just like spacecraft.
Yes, they have wheels, so they can drive, but they also just fly through space.
Yeah. So this has this amazing montage of Signalman just giving them all tickets.
Signalman does say, I will terminate them with my violation tickets. Which I think is extremely good. Like, man, I don't know if a traffic ticket can terminate someone, but if anyone can pull that off, it is Signalman.
So, and then he's given them all tickets. He puts a bunch of them in jail over time. And we also find out why President Dynamo in particular hates Signalman. And the reason is he was going 1,000,000 miles over the speed limit, President Dynamo was, and he's like, I'm the biggest, I'm the baddest, I'm going to get the worst ticket, I'm going to drive so fast. Like,
right, he's the leader of the Bozo. He's a reckless driver.
Right, he's like, Signalman will recognize me as the most reckless driver. This will really brush up my bozo resume, right? And so Signalman pulls up beside him, and President Dynamo is like, get at me, copper. I'm driving 1,000,000 miles over the limit. And Signalman says, like, yeah, just, like, put your seatbelt on, and then drives away. Dynamo is furious,
right,
that he does not get the criminal recognition that he feels he deserves.
Right, getting let off with a warning was just, like, unforgivable. Such an embarrassment. And so he's like, okay, now that Signalman is here, I've got a plan for this guy. I've been preparing. We have been conditioning a monster called Yu Wooden, and he is just going to straight up murder Signalman and eat his bones. Let's do this. And now we meet Yu Wooden. He is not going to go particularly high in the Creature Royale because he's just like a big slobbering beast. Right?
Yeah, like he does not... Yeah, like he's just a dog on a leash. That's all that's going on with him.
He's green. His back is sort of like a weirdly shaped turtle shell. Most of his front is a giant mouth with giant teeth. I think that's kind of all you need to know about him. He's in a cage. They feed him a traffic signal light, and they're like, okay, now that you've gotten the flavor of that, go down to Earth and, like, murder and consume Signalman.
Which is a little bit, I mean... Yeah, sure, whatever.
They're the bad guys, of course.
Right. It makes as much sense as anything else. So we find out he calls himself, by the way, Signalman. He calls himself Signalman Police Koban, or Koban, Kobaan.
Yeah, which the subtitles write down as Coburn, like James Coburn, and I don't know.
Right, I was also confused by that. So we see Signalman, and he says, Koban Bliss complete. And it's like a closed-in shot, and he's like standing in front of this like doorway, and it says like Koban Base on the side. And then it zooms out, and it's like a booth. It's like a toll collector's booth.
Yes.
This is the entirety of Koban Base. We go from there back to Pegasus Motors, and Kyosuke is still mad.
Right. He feels insulted.
Right. He is the hero of this planet. How dare Signalman also be a hero?
And then Dapu rolls over. He's like, "Hey, man, pill out, dude. Pill." And they just look at him like, "Oh, no, Dapu, it's chill. That's
Chill
what you mean to say." It's not a great joke, but I do... This particular instance of it is not a great joke, but I do love the continued insistence that no one from Earth can pronounce Earth words.
So, Minoru's like, "Listen, can you carry these tires over? Like, we've got this customer who wants these tires." And Kyosuke's like, "Fine." So he's walking with, he leaves with the tires. We go back to Signalman, and an old lady walks up to Signalman and says like, "Hey, I'm lost. This is where I'm trying to get. Do you know where this is?" Somehow, Signalman knows he's already, I don't know, he downloaded the map.
Right.
He knows what's up. He says, "Oh yeah, that's not actually very far from here. I'll take you." Because he is a responsible policeman, here to serve and protect, right?
Yes.
As they are walking, Kyosuke sort of like sees them in the distance and is like, "Signalman sighting. This jerk."
And he calls it in to the rest of the Carrangers, who all like get the message, look down at their Excel changers, and are like, "I don't know, what are we supposed to do with this information?"
I guess we should go.
So Kyosuke starts tailing them because he doesn't... I don't think that it's that he doesn't trust Signalman. I think he's just mad at him. Right? Like, it doesn't seem as though he thinks Signalman is going to do something nefarious. He has no reason to believe that.
Yeah.
He just maybe wants to, like, be there if there's an opportunity for heroism. Like, be, like, waiting on the wings, like, aha, now is Kyosuke's time to shine. But it is not Kyosuke's time to shine. It is still Signalman's time to shine. They get to where the map was leading them, and as it turns out, the old lady was not an old lady at all. It was a white wumper who had, shape-changed into the form of an old lady. And then, suddenly, Signalman is surrounded by wumpers, and Zomoda is there, and Grotch, and President Dynamo, and Yu Wurin is there, and they're all about to kill Signalman, except that Signalman is extremely good at his job.
Yeah, like, they do try to fight, and it doesn't, he just like, they all try to stab him, and he just jumps up, and they all miss and stab each other. And then, yeah, like, they just can't do anything. Signalman is too good.
Yeah, this is not the bit where the very cool thing he does is in a minute. So, all of the other Carrangers show up. They're like, "Oh yeah, there's Signalman. He's fighting the Bozoke. We should probably go help him, right?" And then one by one, they all say, yeah, okay, let's go help him. And as they go over to the fight, Signalman's like, "Hey, Bozoke, chill for a sec. I gotta go talk to these chuckleheads." Wanders over to the Carrangers. He's like, "Hey guys, I appreciate what you're doing here, but I'm taking care of this. So,
right, leave this to the professionals."
Right, like, you stay behind this line. Just sit back and enjoy the artistic way that I fight."
And they do. Like, he pulls out his, like, rod, and he literally, like, scratches a line into the dirt. He's like, "Don't go past this line." Like, official police business beating up the bad guys happening over here. You guys stay on your side of the line.
Yeah, and
it's great because they do. Like, they're just sitting watching. They're like, "Why, he is really good."
And I think it's
He's
Yoko
very, very good
keeps,
at this.
like, stepping over the line, and everyone's like, "No, don't step over the line. He's going to come back and be mad at us."
Eventually, they do get sort of irritated enough about this. Like, you know what? Okay, like, we're just... Like, we can just leave, right?
Right. He seems
like,
fine.
This dude has told us he doesn't want our help. He clearly doesn't seem to need our help for anything. Like, let's just roll, man. We're good.
Right. So they all start to walk away. As they're leaving, I don't know if the the Bozoke know that they now have a better opportunity, or if this is complete happenstance. But they finally, like, everyone grabs a chain, and they all throw their chains at Signalman, and they're able to sort of, like, tie him up, and they're shooting him with electricity and lasers.
This seems to be the plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they seem to have planned this part.
And they're about to, like, really get him, right? Like, it's not looking good for Signalman, but he has collapsed right next to his police whistle.
Yes.
And he manages to, like, pick it up and drag it to his lips and sound the alarm. And then, to his rescue come not the Carrangers, but his motorcycle.
Yes. So this motorcycle just rolls up and it activates. I didn't catch the name of it. But he just it laser blasts everyone. It's great.
He sort of jumps on it as it's driving past, and he what does he call this series of techniques? The death blow signal shoot?
Man, I forget. I just wrote down drive-by mode activated because he's just driving and he's doing like old-timey Western style trick riding. He's like turned around on his motorcycle, shooting people. He's like leaning around the back.
It's so good.
It's very, very good. And basically, as soon as he gets on this bike, it is now even more overmatched. Like nobody has any chance. He takes everybody out, and then Grotch somehow is there, and he's like, "Oh no, you were in, like, get some Imo Yokan in ya." So he gives him the Imo Yokan, and this is actually the first time that we see Signalman sweat a little bit.
Right, because at least so far in this episode, and I don't know how it's going to shake out because I haven't watched any past this episode. So far, Signalman is, like, unstoppable on the ground, but now he is facing a giant monster, and he gets really incredulous about it. He's like, "Hey, what are you doing up there? I didn't give you permission to become a giant." Like, how dare you? You have violated the sanctity of this fight.
Yeah, I mean, Yu Warren is like a slobbering berserker monster, so he doesn't care. But yeah, Signalman has no giant option. Like, this is not in his arsenal. But thankfully, the Rangers do. So they show up, he actually calls down to them. He's like, "Hey, if you guys are still there, if you have a way to deal with this, that would be great."
Right, because at this point, Kyosuke has, like, dragged all of them back to the fight. Because I think, like, he still is like, "No, if there's a time for me to shine, I am going to do it." So they summon the RV Robo, and then, I mean, you know, after they summon the RV Robo, this is episode 12, nothing can beat the giant robot yet. Give it a few more episodes, and there's bound to be something that knocks RV Robo over or, like, breaks his arm or something. But at this stage in the series, like, once you get Giant Robot in the game, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, so they take out Yu Warren. That's over and done with.
They all get back to the ground, and they're sort of standing in a circle, and Signalman says to the Carrangers, like, "Okay, like, that was great. Thanks, everybody. Let's all now work together in the future so that we can all beat the Bozoke as a team." And they also, like, put their hands into a circle. They're like, "Yes, okay, team." And then Signalman, like, looks behind them. He's like, "Oh man, are those your cars over there? All parked over there?" Like, "Yeah, man, those are our speeder machines. They're our cool machines." He's like, "Yeah, cool. Those are all parked illegally. I'm gonna have to go give you all tickets." And, like, pulls on his book of tickets.
So good.
And does he? No, they all scramble over to their cars and, like, hop in and drive away.
No, they all manage to move.
And then he, like, chases them down the road, like, "No, you need to pay." And I don't know who they would pay that ticket to, right? Because he is not a Tokyo policeman, and I don't think that they have the capacity to, like, put their fine in an envelope and mail it to Planet Police. Anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, the whole existence of, like, an interplanetary police force. This is why, like, the Green Lanterns are weird. Because they're like, "We're just the police of space." And everyone's like, "What? I mean, who appointed you?" And they're like, "Well, we've got these power rings, so why don't you try and unappoint us if you feel like it?" And everyone's like, "Well, I mean, I guess
We've
not.
got these little blue guys, and their heads are enormous.
So anyway.
Anyway, dude, that's the end of the episode, but it's not the end of our episode because we actually have a little catching up to do.
We do actually have a little bit of catching up to do. We have got to hit the Creature Royale.
Yeah, so last week we were sort of on a time crunch and we were not able to complete the Creature Royale for PP Rappa. And I would like to talk about him because let's quick throw Yu Yu Warren on the list. He's a whole lot of nothing, right?
Yeah, like he's, listen, I'm going to say that Yu Yu Warren will be at the bottom of the list, just above the monsters that are, like, destroyed by their own powers.
Where's Torpedo Piranha?
Torpedo Piranha is 147, just above Barra Ivy, Laser Lizard, Father Magnet, Barra Vacuum, Barra Guard, and General Cactus / Barra Nightmare.
I think that, man, I think he's either right up. Let's see, Voice Dimension is creepy and bad, or Voice Dimension, there were some good ideas in him, but he was just like a genuinely bad person. Which one was MM Mogu?
He was the Edie one. He's the one who sort of like first discovers the Emo Yokon. So I'm going to say he's below MM Mogu, but above Voice Dimension. Because MM Mogu at least like discovers the thing about the Emo Yokon.
Yeah. Yeah, that seems
Or he's
right.
in that episode. I mean, Grotch actually figures it out, but whatever. Okay, so you were in slot number 146. He's dumb and lame.
Okay, now, PP Rappa was good.
Yes, PP Rappa was very
He
good.
had lasers that were numbers that would change numbers into other numbers. And then he could summon giant things that were the shape of numbers. And those things could shoot lasers that were not the number lasers, but were lasers that were coming out of numbers. And one of those things was a giant duck. So I think we can all agree he's very good.
Yes, those are very, very cool powers. I would like to see more people with duck summoning powers.
Yes. So, okay. There are currently 153 people on the list, right? So, sort of in the middle of that, as always, right in the middle, we've got the Jewelry Priestesses. He's not that good. If we drop down to... What's number 100 on our list right now?
Number 100 on the list, Matt, is Poison Gas Rat. Just above Poison Gas Rat is R.R. Ree. And then we're up into Tofu Hermit, the Dorotabo, the TV Lover, Purse Monk, Duke Trump, and Count Kaleidoscope.
Okay, I think... Let's go a little below number 100 then. Because right below the Poison Gas Rat is Diamond Dimension. And Diamond Dimension made Akko incredibly greedy and want all the money. Remember?
Oh, yeah.
And then they had
That's
to, like,
a very, very good
they
episode.
had to, like, tie her to a chair and dump a bunch of diamonds on her to, like,
oh my gosh,
overload
that was
her,
such a good
her
moment.
greed.
Yeah.
And PP Rop is not that good.
No, PP Rop is not nearly that good.
Okay, we've actually still got some good people sort of in this zone, but there's a handful of Bara creatures that are like fine but kind of nothing once we hit like the 120s. So like right above Energy Butt, who is of course the spectacular character find of 2015, we've got Bara Mistler,
Right.
Bara Mammoth, Bara Boxer. I think that PP Rappa is better than all of them.
Yeah, I agree. They're fun and they've got some things to their credit, but they're not great. And they're not particularly imaginative. I think PP Rappa has a lot. Like he's very weird, and I dig that in a monster. Just above Bara Boxer is Azukirai the Bean Washer from Carranger.
Now, Azukirai the Bean Washer, if he was just his monster form, which even that was pretty good, he was like the trash can guy. That's fine. But in his human form, he was like pretending to be a policeman. And he had like his own like evil police station with like a like a crazy Dungeons and Dragons like lair underneath, and that was very good.
Anyone with a lair, I think, gets extra points. So I'm going to say not as good as Azuki Arai, but better than Bara Boxer.
I think that's I think that's pretty solid.
So that puts Pipi Rappa in at new slot 118.
Which again sounds low on the list, but the list now goes down to 153.
It's a very long list,
and it's top heavy. Anyway, and that, Dave, that I think finally is going to do it for another episode of Licensed to Carranger. Before we finish up here, I'd like to remind you all that you can email the show at supersentaibrothers@gmail.com. You want to get any updates on future episodes or check out the things that we're talking about on Twitter, we are at Super Sentai Bros. If you like the show, please remember that shining in the iTunes review section, there are 5 stars. Rate, review, subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever it is that you find the show. That will help direct other people to the show, and then they can tell their friends, and it's like a chain letter, but good. The Super Sentai Brothers are a production of Retrograde Orbit Radio. To listen to any of the other great Retrograde Orbit Radio shows, you can do that all at retrogradeorbitradio.com. Once again, we are the Super Sentai Brothers. I'm Matt.
I'm Dave.
And we'll see you next week for the greatest show on Earth.